Welcome back to another quick guide. Today I'll teach you how to make your video look vintage. Adobe Premiere. Creating a vintage look for your videos in Adobe Premiere Pro can add a nostalgic, cinematic feel to your project. This effect is often used to mimic the aesthetics of old film footage, complete with grain, faded colors, and other retro characteristics. Now, Adobe Premiere Pro's Lumetri Color panel is a powerful tool for color grading and can be used to create a vintage look by adjusting colors, adding film grain, and applying vignettes. Open your Adobe Premiere Pro and create a new project, or just open an existing one. Import your video footage by dragging it into the project panel. Drag your footage onto the timeline to create a new sequence. Then go to Edit section. Then drag your footage to the timeline. Ensure the sequence settings match your desired output resolution and frame rate. Now, choose your video clip in the timeline. Go to Window, Lumetri Color to open the Lumetri Color panel. And the Basic Correction tab, make subtle adjustments to the temperature, tint, exposure, contrast, highlights, and shadows to achieve a faded look typical of vintage footage. Temperature, increase slightly for a warmer tone. Contrast, reduce to flatten the image. Highlights, lower to reduce overly bright areas. Shadows, lift to brighten dark areas slightly. Example of the adjustments: temperature 10, contrast -20, highlights -30, shadows 20+. Now, switch to the Created tab for more stylistic changes. Look, choose a great preset look, or import a lookup table for vintage styles. Premiere Pro includes some built-in LUTs that mimic film looks. Faded film. Increase this to give a washed-out aged appearance. Sharpen. Reduce to mimic the softer look of older film. Vibrance. Decrease to reduce the intensity of colors. Saturation. Lower slightly for muted colors. This is the example settings. Faded film 20, sharpen -20, vibrance -15, saturation 85. Now, navigate to the curve section to fine-tune colors. Adjust these to alter brightness and contrast across different tones. Hue and saturation. Lower saturation for specific hues to mimic the color degradation of old films. Hue versus hue. Change specific color hues for a unique vintage palette. Example: RGB curves, lift shadows, and lower highlights for flatter look. Hue versus saturation. Desaturate greens and blues slightly. Now, add a vignette to your footage for a classic look. Adjust the amount, midpoint, roundness, and feather to create a subtle dark border. This is the example settings. Amount -1.5, midpoint 40, roundness 20, feather 75. While the Lumetri panel doesn't have a built-in grain effect, you can use a noise effect. Go to Effects panel, go to Video Effects drop-down menu, search for Noise and Grain, find Noise and drag it onto your clip. Now go to Effect Controls and find the noise. Set the amount of noise to around 50%. for a subtle grain. And that's all for now folks. Thanks for watching.